Welcome back into another episode of Tide Talk Live. Stacey Blackwood, joined as always by my good buddy Jake Thomas. Jake, what's happening, brother?
Man, good to be back tonight, Stacey. Awesome show that you did recruiting the other day that dropped, I believe, this morning. Might have been yesterday, but really good insight on recruiting. We got some more recruiting to talk about today as well. So glad to be here, buddy.
Yeah, I got a big show lined up tonight. We're recording this on Tuesday night. It'll be released on Wednesday morning to you guys. So just kind of some perspective on how we do this. But got a big show. Going to talk about some underrated, under the radar players heading into the season. We'll each pick one guy from the offensive side of the ball and one guy from the defensive side of the ball. And then we'll wrap the show up discussing Casey Poe as he's going to make his commitment on Wednesday. Choosing between some of the best schools in the country. He's one of the top interior offensive linemen in the country in the class of 2024. So some good news possibly coming for the Crimson Tide on Wednesday. But before we do that, make sure you do like, share, and subscribe to our show, whether that's on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just wherever you find your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, leave us those 5-star written reviews. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you jump in the comment section below and give us your under the radar players heading into the 2023 season, and give us a Y for yes or an N for no if Casey Poe is going to pick the Crimson Tide on Wednesday. So look forward to interacting with you there in the comment section on YouTube. Jake, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball. I think we could go a multitude of ways with some guys who are kind of flying under the radar entering the 2023 season. You know, there's obviously the quarterback is always going to take a lot of the spotlight away.
Right.
There's some big names in the backfield that everybody's excited about. So Jake, I think we're probably both going to go to the same position room here. But who is a guy on the offensive side of the ball that you think is kind of flying under the radar?
Oh, first of all, Stacey, we talked about on our show the other night about how how the running back room can really help out this quarterback situation, but finding targets at wide receiver can also help out a new quarterback and adjusting to starting, if especially a fresh quarterback who hasn't had a lot of experience. But I'm going with Kendrick Law. Kendrick Law, he didn't really play much until later in the season, and I vividly remember that Auburn game. I mean, he had I think he averaged 26 yards a carry. He only had 2 receptions, 52 yards. But I mean, it just kind of showed what he has potential to be. And there is a multitude of guys at wide receiving room that can be that next guy, but he's a big physical guy who can go up and make a play if he needs to, and he's going to be tough to bring down. I think he's like 200 pounds, so he's a bigger body for a wide receiver.
Yeah, I love the pick of Kendrick Law, and that's almost who I went with. You mentioned the Auburn game, Jack. I actually just rewatched the first half of that game, either last night or night before last, and he made a massive play early in that game in the second
Mm-hmm.
quarter when the game was still in the balance. It was 3rd and 19 for Alabama after a couple penalties. He picks up a huge gain of like 26 yards on 3rd and 19, and was able to move the chains. And I think the next play or a couple plays after that, Ja'Cory Brooks caught a touchdown pass. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what Kendrick Law is going to be for Alabama. He's going to be that chain mover. He's 5'10",
Right.
5'11", over 200 pounds, just a possession, physical receiver who's going to make the contested catches. So I love the pick of Kendrick Law. Obviously, the 4 Bs are getting all the love in the receiver room. Ja'Cory Brooks, Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond, and Malik Benson. Those are the guys that are receiving the most notoriety heading into the
Rightfully
2023
so.
season. Yeah, and rightfully
Yeah.
so. Those guys are really great players, but I'm going to stick in the receiver room, and I'm going to go with Kobe Prentice, Jacob, a
Mm-hmm.
guy who's totally opposite of what Kendrick Law is. He's 5'10", 5'11", 180 pounds soaking wet, but can flat out fly. A guy who's a sprinter, an athlete, a guy who's capable of taking it to the house anytime he touches the football. So I look for him to play a major role in the slot this year for Alabama. Could make some big time plays for Alabama. We saw that big playability, against Arkansas, against Utah State, really in the first game of the year, and then against Kansas State, he catches a 50-plus yard touchdown against the Wildcats there in the Sugar Bowl. So a guy who flashes who flashed playmaking ability as a true freshman last year, who I think is just going to be better under Tommy Rees and under his second year at Alabama. So two guys at receiver who I'm really excited about. You picked Kendrick Law, the more possession type receiver who's going to move the chains, and I went with Kobe Prentice, a guy who's capable of taking it to the house anytime he touches the football.
Yeah, I really love Kobe Prentice and what he has showed last year as well. You just saw the flashes, and we know how big it is for a slot receiver who has speed. Because if you get the correct matchup, if he gets stuck on a linebacker, or if a linebacker gets stuck on him, he's going to take it to the house, and that's what, like you said, says Kobe Prentice can do. And Kendrick Law, I failed to mention, but you did mention that I do feel like he's going to kind of be like that Slade Bolden type guy. Third and 8, 3rd and 9, we need a big play. You look for him in the middle of the field. He's going to catch the ball, probably hovering around, like you said, the chains, and get the first down when needed in a critical situation. So both guys, I feel like, is going to have big time play abilities this upcoming seasons for this team.
Yeah, I look at Kendrick Law as a mix between a John Mechie and a Slade Bolden.
Yeah.
Because I think he's more capable of making an explosive play like John Mechie was, but he's also really good at moving the chains and kind of hovering around the sticks, like you said, to pick up those first downs for Alabama on third and medium type plays. So, yeah, Kendrick Law is going to be a very important piece of this Alabama offense. And Coach Saban mentioned in the spring how much of a leadership role he has already taken on as a true sophomore, not only as in the receiver room, but as on the offense as a whole. So when Coach Saban's bragging on you, you're doing something right. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how all the second-year receivers kind of grow and blossom in their sophomore season in Tuscaloosa. So excited to see what both those guys can do. I think that receiver room could be really special for Alabama if they can be consistent.
Yeah, that's the key, is consistency, and that is going to be the key factor. And I think once they get their feet wet, and once we figure out the quarterback situation, they're going to spark, and it's just going to be fine. But having a lot of depth at wide receiver and having talent there is going to help that new quarterback, whoever it is, whether it be Milroe or Ty Simpson, transition and getting his feet wet and getting settled into the game.
Yeah, and if I was going to pick another guy on the offensive side of the ball, I would stick in the receiver room and go Emmanuel Henderson.
Oh man, yeah.
I mean,
you're right.
the amount of depth and talent in the receiver room is scary. And I actually wrote about that on Roll Tide Wire today, about how if Alabama can be consistent in the wide receiver room, they have a chance to be one of the best units in the country. I mean, the talent is there. It's just consistency and performance, and that's what Coach Saban preaches all the time. And hopefully they can do that this fall, because if they can, that's nothing but help for new quarterback in Tuscaloosa.
Absolutely, I'm excited about this team. I'm especially excited about the wide receiver room, because, like you said, it's deep. It's probably 8-10 deep. I mean, it's incredible. It's wild.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball now, Jake. This one was a little bit tougher for me than it was on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not sure why, but because there's plenty of question marks and guys that are looking to fill voids left by people that's moved on to the NFL. But I think we're both once again going to stick in the same position group or the same part of the field. And Jake, who's your guy on the defensive side of the ball who's kind of going under the radar this year?
My guy, he was in the spotlight his true freshman year. I mean, and I'm talking about Malachi Moore. Malachi Moore, his true freshman year, I mean, he had 3 interceptions, had that big one against Auburn. Everybody remembers it. And you kind of saw, like, okay, this kid is going to be truly special. Sophomore year, he started dealing with some injuries. Branch come out of nowhere, and you can't keep Branch off the field. He pretty much took his position. So that spotlight kind of faded a little bit, and not a lot of people, probably realize that Malachi Moore's is a senior, and he's still on this team. So I feel like, Malachi, if he can reach back to that freshman year and stay healthy and be that type of player for this team this year, he's going to make a name for himself and get back in that spotlight in that secondary this year.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Malachi Moore, he is a guy we love the moment that he signed
Yeah,
with Alabama, and I can't believe he's a senior now. That's just incredible. But I mean
yeah,
that go man, we've been doing the show this long because I remember talking about him as a
yeah,
recruit.
yeah. I do too.
But that's wild. But
Hmm.
yeah, Malachi's a great pick. He as a freshman, he was one of the best playmakers on the team defensively. So
Hmm.
if he can get back to that form in 2023, that would be huge for this defense because this defense needs to force some turnovers this fall, and they need to be opportunistic and get back to those scoring those non-offensive touchdowns. So Moore's a great pick. He's certainly capable because he's already proved it at this level. So
Hmm.
hopefully he can get back to that form, and if he can, he'll be one of the best players in the SEC. And we are going to stick on in the defensive backfield, Jake. I'm going to go with Terrion Arnold.
Oh yeah.
You know, he kind of got baptism by fire last year as a redshirt freshman at corner. Look, but I think people have a hard time remembering. Go back and watch Kool-Aid McKinstry as a freshman, Jake, especially in that national championship game against Georgia. He got exposed a couple times. He got exposed before that as a true freshman, and you
Hmm.
have to remember that Terrion Arnold was moving from safety to corner as once he entered college. So being a cornerback is relatively new to him. So that's important to remember. But I think he has all the ability in the world to be a star player for Alabama defensively, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Trey Amos, the Louisiana transfer, because I think him and Arnold are probably going to be, dishing it out for that starting corner spot opposite of Kool-Aid. But if Arnold can win that, Jake, I think he could be in for a really good redshirt sophomore season. So that's my guy who I think's flying under the radar a little bit, and I'm excited to see what he does here in his second year as a player for Alabama instead of a redshirt.
Yeah, I really like Terry Arnold as well. He, like you said, is baptism by fire last year, but for the most part, I was really impressed with his game and how he played. And we're going back. You talked about the non offensive touchdowns. That's one thing in the secondary has struggled with the past several years is making those top plays. We talked about how Malachi Moore has that ability. We know Kool-Aid can do it, and I believe Arnold as well can make a couple interceptions this year to kind of change the tide around and make, because you got to figure until the quarterback situation gets settled, the offense may sputter just a little bit. We still got the workhorses behind the quarterback that can take the load off, but we still need some playmakers on defense to step up and potentially force turnovers that we haven't been doing the past several years to help the offense out.
Yeah, I think just looking ahead quickly, Jake, in week 2 against Texas,
Mhm.
if Alabama doesn't force turnovers in that game, it's going to be hard to beat the Longhorns
You're
because
right.
they're going to put some points up. They returned 10 of their 11 starters on us from last year. The only
Yeah.
guy they lost was Robinson, their running back.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
everybody else is back.
And Worthy just
I mean, yeah,
shredded us.
he ran past everybody last year. So,
Yeah.
you know, the defense better be opportunistic against Texas because the offense, like you said, is probably still going to be a work in progress. I don't think they're going to be bad, but they're going to
Mhm.
be a work in progress. They're not going to be up to Texas's level yet because they're not returning 10 of their 11 starters on offense.
Right.
So it's still going to be a work in progress there. So, like you said, those turnovers, those not offensive touchdowns, they could be critical as soon as week 2 of the 2023 season.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And this defense has the potential to force those turnovers again. And even if they're not getting the touchdowns out of it, at least getting the turnovers to getting your offense maybe set up in a better position than starting at the 25. At least get in the middle of the field and then having your offense start there instead of the 25. Any little bit will help, because I feel like this defense, like you said, Stacey, the offense will get it going. They're too talented not to. But
Right, right.
this defense is a little bit more experienced right now than the offensive side of the ball is. So you've got to lean on the defense. I feel like for the first couple of games until the offense catches up to game speed, especially the new quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt about that. I would be shocked if the offense come in just rolling. I mean,
Right.
Boy, you have to give Tommy Reese a lot of credit if that happens.
Oh, if
But
he do, I'll be fine.
yeah, yeah. So I'll certainly take it.
Yeah, me too.
But so there's our under the radar players, both offensively and defensively. Jake, before we head out, just a little bit of recruiting nugget. Casey Poe, a 4-star interior offensive lineman from the state of Texas, is going to be making his announcement on Wednesday. A guy who's arguably the best interior offensive lineman in the country for the class of 2024. He's got a top 7 of Clemson, Texas Tech, LSU, Alabama, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Georgia. 6'4", 6'5", around 285, 290. Everybody feels good about Alabama right now and their chances of landing Casey Poe. Give credit to Holman Wiggins. I think it's Holman Wiggins and Eric Wolford, who have been on the trail hot and heavy for Casey Poe and the guys who've been primary recruiting him. So I think Alabama's in good position right now. I would predict him to commit to Alabama on Wednesday. And I think that would be a massive get for the Tide as they continue to get rolling commitments here in the month of July.
Yeah, that's a big pickup if they're able to land them, which I agree, Stacey. I feel like we're sitting in a good position, but he's got experience at tackle and at guard, so he can play either or, but more than likely he's probably going to be and like you said, an interior lineman for us. But just having a guy who can play on the outside as well is key, especially because you never know how injuries are going to go. So
Right.
Poe could potentially be one of those guys that can come in and start right away, next year or year after. So I'm excited to see how his progress goes if he picks Alabama.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to that commitment on Wednesday. And like we said, we both feel confident that Alabama will land Casey Poe. And what would that give them? What, 10 or 11? I can't even keep up with it. It went from 8 to like 11, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
What, 10? I don't know.
Like 2 days, it's
in
crazy.
just a couple days. So
Yeah.
it's hard to keep up with now. And it's gonna be busy the next couple of weeks in recruiting, especially for the class of 2024. So just be on the lookout for commitments, about every other day for the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
a lot to look forward to there. But that's going to wrap up our show for today. A lot of fun talking about some under the radar players heading into the season. We're 50 at the moment of the recording, 53 days away from kickoff. So at the time you're watching this, we'll be at 52 days.
Yeah.
So we're Tyler Booker days away from kickoff. One of my favorite players on the team right now.
Yeah, I love Tyler. His just his attitude, man.
He's nasty, man. He's nasty.
And we need that on the offensive line this year.
Nasty in a good way.
Right.
Nasty in the most wonderful way possible.
Right. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back really soon with another episode, maybe in a couple days. We'll kind of play that by ear. We're going to be planning a live show sometime toward the end of this month where we want the fans of the Crimson Tide and the fans of Tide Talk Live to be really interactive and kind of drive the conversation of that show, of that live show. So we look forward to that. We want to hear everybody's opinions on the quarterback situation, on how you think the season's going to play out. But we'll have more details on that coming up in a couple of weeks. But we look forward to doing that and sharing that live show with you, the loyal viewers, listeners, however you want to put it. But that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe today. Jump in the comments. Give us your under the radar players and a Y for yes or an N for no if you think Casey Poe is going to pick the Crimson Tide on Wednesday. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon. And until next time, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.